We're working with customers that 5 years ago, we never would have imagined. Meta or Microsoft, where you would think those aren't industrial project type of customers. But now we're working with them. Technology companies that used to just engage with either via social media or on the internet, ordering things or whatnot, are now getting involved in capital projects.
Thanks for checking out Project Cargo Professionals. We talk a lot about digitalization and AI on this show, which is why I want to tell you about our sponsor, Logiswift. Logiswift makes your operations faster and simpler, managing the entire cargo lifecycle in one smart platform. With real end-to-end visibility, you can adapt quickly when things change. Built for Project Cargo, it's now even more powerful with its new AI feature. Check out logiswift.com to take your supply chain to the next level, or message me directly and I'll connect you with Ziad, Khan, and the team. Now to the show. Jake, good to see you.
Hi, Luke.
How are you?
Good, doing good. Happy to be here.
Likewise. Jake, DHL is a huge global name. Tell us how that benefits Project Cargo clients.
Well, the name, I think, just like you said, it is really important. It's the brand recognition, it's stability. When you do a large capital project, stability is an important aspect, and knowing that DHL is not going anywhere, I think brings a big comfort to our customers. Additionally, we have a very strong and robust network, which is one of the things that we sell to our customers is that it's DHL people that are going to be touching your cargo at the origin and at the destination and all the way through. And so I think that's an important aspect of it as well, is just the network, the people, and obviously that recognition of what we do.
And you've had a lot of interesting roles already in your career. Talk us through that and tell us what you've been doing up until this point.
Yeah, I have been on different sides of the table, if you will. I started, actually, if we go way back, I went to a maritime academy when I did my university studies, which of course exposed me to sailing and commercial shipping, and also the military aspect of things. And I did that for a brief period of time where I sailed.
Where was that?
At the United States Merchant Marine Academy.
Okay.
And I sailed with container vessels for about a year. And then after that, I came ashore and worked on the carrier side. And then after doing that for several years, I moved into the shipper side. So working for an EPC contractor. And I did that for several more years. And then ultimately came into freight forwarding. And so kind of had that varied experience of being on different sides of the table and even being at sea.
And what did you learn on the ships? Because that's not a luxurious experience, is it?
It wasn't, I don't know about luxurious, but it wasn't, it was a learning experience. You get to see how cargo moves. You get to touch cargo and then also understand the different challenges that the vessels go through, and those that are working on those vessels, the different unique challenges, timing, and so I've taken that throughout my entire career. Particularly when I worked on the carrier side, it was very helpful when you're in the office and you're communicating with the vessels and understanding what those challenges are, and then being able to share that with customers, I think was invaluable. But as I've continued on with my career, it continues to be an influence.
So bring us up to date. Tell us a bit about your current role and what your day-to-day looks like.
Current role is I'm head of industrial projects for the Americas region. And so what that means is that we have different country teams within the region. And I work together with the country managers to ensure that we are growing, to ensure that we are viable when it comes to profitability, and that we are growing the business. And so, part of it is commercial. You get engaged in target opportunities and working with customers, target customers. Part of it is building the teams. And so there's a fair bit of working together with the people which is super important in freight forwarding. You're only as strong as your people and network. And so sometimes I feel a bit like a general manager of a sports team might feel, where you're putting the right pieces on the pitch. And so there's a bit of that. And then of course there's the financial side and making sure that things are working in that way. And so it's a little bit of everything. And then of course it's kind of representing industrial projects in the region.
So it's probably unfair to ask who are your star players on the team then.
They're all star players. They all have a role to play,
Good
but
answer.
yeah, no, but obviously we have some countries that are a little bit bigger and contribute a bit more to the bottom line results. And so it's important to have, focuses there. In the U.S., you see a lot of decision making when it comes to the larger capital projects. So it's important that we have a strong team here, and also that we have strong commercial focus and strategy. But in South America and Argentina and Chile, there's a lot of mining that's decided there, a lot of very interesting and large mining projects and so on and so forth. So it's all important. And obviously there's certain hubs for certain types of activities.
Yeah, and I was interested to ask, because your role also includes Latin America. So which other countries aside from the US are you particularly excited about? Where looks good for you at the moment?
Good question. Very excited about the mining opportunities that we're seeing in Chile and in Argentina. When it comes to like lithium, that has been, it's had some ups and downs, but there's still quite a bit of activity that we see there. And so we've been involved in our fair share. But there's other mining that goes on there in both of those countries, and also in Peru. Mexico, there's a lot of growth there when it comes to nearshoring, and we see more and more technology projects, and of course oil and gas and mining is big there. And so Mexico being our neighbor here in the U.S., there's also a lot of supplying that we do there, and shipping that we do across the border, and working together. So that's exciting. And of course in the U.S., as I would say is our biggest market, there's a lot of excitement when it comes to the tech projects. There's a lot of semicon fabrication. There's a lot of data storage and battery storage and all of this other kind of tech. And we're working with customers that 5 years ago we never would have imagined, right? I mean, companies like Meta or Microsoft, where you would think those aren't industrial project type of customers. But now we're working with them, and of course the traditional oil and gas and mining continues to be very active, and we're involved in that as well too. But those are some of the areas where I'm most excited. Of course, I don't want to sell some of the other countries short. There's a lot of activity in Canada, and we're growing in places like Colombia, and so in Central America as well too. So it's an exciting region to be engaged with.
And talk a bit about some of those new customers and why they're so important to this sector now. Why are they generating the kind of cargo that you're interested in?
Because they're building large capital construction projects. They're with semicon. It's just a matter of filling a need that we have within the region, and not being so dependent on Asia to supply microchips or microprocessors, right? And so that's something that was identified, and there's a lot of government funding that's available, and companies are sourcing or expanding their fabrication facilities here. So there's growth. And then when it comes to like data and battery storage, these are kind of new things that weren't around years ago. And so there's a lot of building and opportunities there. And so we're talking with these customers. Last week I was in Austin talking with Amazon and with a few others, and they're they're growing when it comes to these types of projects. And so it's interesting, you know.
So the big consumer brands are entering the project cargo world.
We're seeing that, you know, it's interesting. And these technology companies that used to just engage with, you know, either via social media or on the internet, ordering things or whatnot, are now getting involved in capital projects.
And we heard in an earlier podcast, a shipper in the US talk about how hot the power generation market was and how he can't recall it ever being as strong. What other sectors are you finding in the US is particularly active for you at the moment?
Well, just the ones that I just shared with you, obviously with technology and semicon, those are hot. You mentioned power generation. Yeah, I mean, for all of these facilities, they require power. And so we're seeing a tremendous amount of transformers and other types of power generation equipment coming into the country. I was in Colombia last month and visited a couple of these factories where they're fabricating these transformers, and it's full, it's busy. And so there's a lot of activity when it comes to that. And so that's exciting. I think, you know, you mentioned the US and what else? We're seeing a lot more activity when it comes to mining in the US. And so that's of interest as well, too.
And it is a good market, but obviously there's huge uncertainty around tariffs and the ever-changing trade policy. How are you navigating that? What sort of conversations are you having with your customers?
That is a challenging aspect to what we're living right now. The trade war, the tariff uncertainties. Generally speaking, what we're trying to do is share the information that we have with our customers and provide solutions. And so we have within DHL Global Forwarding, we have a product that's fully dedicated to customs and value-added service. And a lot of times when we're bidding on project work, we're working together with our customs group because we're adding that service as a value add to our customers. And so information, what's the latest and greatest, has been invaluable because it is ever changing. The challenge has been just the delays when it comes to certain project activity. Customers, a lot of times with that uncertainty, especially when it comes to budget of a project, and not knowing what kind of duties they may have to pay for material that they're sourcing in certain places, that has caused a good amount of our customers to say, let's pause, let's see what happens, let's see how this plays out, and then we will, you know, start focusing on that project again. And so the challenge for us has been seeing those delays and kind of adjusting our focus for the year, you know, and for what actually will be coming available and what kind of active projects we have instead of ones that are going to be coming maybe a little bit more into the future.
Right. And a lot of these policies are designed to stimulate domestic production. Do you see evidence of that happening yet, or is it too soon?
I think it's too soon. What we are seeing is kind of what I mentioned with the technology sector, where you're starting to see the nearshoring or the desire to have these facilities closer, right, in country. And so you are seeing building of those facilities. Sometimes it's getting moved to the right. And a lot of times the building of these facilities will have some type of, you know, either a Build America Act or some type of government support or funding, which requires sourcing to be in the U.S. So you are seeing a lot of, you know, more buying within the U.S. to support these types of projects. But I still think that's
already happening. Those requirements are increasing all the time.
Yes, yeah, especially in the sector that I'm referring to, and also, you know, one way to get around some of the tariffs is to, you know, buy your material here locally. And so you are seeing if you can, and if it's viable. But we are seeing that. And so I still think it's too early to tell, because while you see that, you also see the the delays. And so at some point it needs to stabilize and everybody needs to understand what those tariffs will be. And then you can build your budget and move forward. It's not that our customers don't want to go forward with the projects. It's they want to know, they want to have a good understanding of what that project will cost, go through that process they have to go through, and then move forward. But with the uncertainty, sometimes that's the challenge.
And the talent gap is another well-discussed topic at Breakbulk events over the years. How does that look in your region, and how's DHL addressing that?
It exists. I think the talent gap is something that you always have to be looking at. Recently, we started a program called Next Gen IP, where essentially it's a 2-year training program where we reach into the universities and bring in, a group. The latest group was a group of 6 recent graduates, and then we send them to different departments within different countries within the industrial projects group that we have. And so we're giving them
around the world, or
around the world. Yeah. We started this generation, if you will, started based here in Houston, and they stayed here for several months. And then we sent them some went to Asia, some went to Middle East, some went to Europe. And then they're all, kind of cycling through the different departments, whether it's chartering, operations, finance, marketing, operations. They're getting their taste and their feel for different aspects of our business.
They must love it. Sounds great.
It has been great. In fact, I'm kind of going through an interview process with all of them now to get feedback from what they liked, what was challenging. And now we're going through the process of putting them into a more permanent role. And I'm getting feedback from them, what did you like? What departments did you prefer? What regions did you prefer? And once we finish this, we'll place them. And then the following year, we'll start up a new crop and do it again. And the new one will most likely not be based here. We'll be based somewhere else. And that's one way. We do other things within DHL. We have build your skilled training programs where you bring people at a certain level and help them to develop and prepare them for leadership roles. We have future leaders where you try to look for high potentials and also give them training. And so DHL has a plethora of training and preparation. There's even a library of videos that you can kind of train yourself on certain aspects of the business. And as you prepare for certain roles, that adds to your resume, if you will, of experience. And so you've got to do a little bit of everything. But the talent gap, that's something you always have to focus on. And it's more than just the programs. I think it's also just the interpersonal relationships. And that's what when I'm meeting and interviewing these next geners, they're saying, yeah, I really appreciated working very closely with this person because of all of their experience and the things that they could, share with me. I learned 5 years worth of things in 5 months, and so that's invaluable.
What's the best thing about working for DHL Industrial Projects?
It's the people. I know that's maybe a cliche or sounds cheesy, but when I was making the change from working on the EPC side to come over to freight forwarding, and sometimes freight forwarding has a stigma of being the dark side. It's for whatever reason. And I was a little nervous, can I make this jump? And when I met with the people that were interviewing me, my future, boss and so forth, the leaders of IP, I really was like, yes, these are top-notch quality people. And if they can do it, then this is a good place for me. And so it's the people. And since then we've built the team up more. I've been with DHL for for 8 years now, and great people. And now in my current role, I also sit on the Americas Leadership Board, which is not just IP, but it's all the products that we have within Global Forwarding, the head of air freight, the head of ocean freight, customs, and so forth. And being able to interact with those people who are also very top-notch quality, that's why. That's the pleasure of working in DHL.
What do you think you took from working on the shipper side specifically?
Understanding the customer's perspective. When I came into DHL, I had more of a commercial role prior to moving into my current role. And just having that understanding of what processes they have to go through, what their perspective is as they analyze bids, for example, what kind of things they look for, what challenges they have internally when it comes to developing a logistics budget, things of that nature. It's very helpful to bring that, with me here to DHL. We've done that, with a lot of roles where we, want to do better in mining. Let's find somebody from the mining sector that can help us have that perspective. And
so you've got many other colleagues that have come from a shipper background.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of our sector heads came from that side of the business, renewable, they come from renewable side and so forth. Find that to be very helpful.
So any shippers that are fed up, they know where to find their next job.
Yeah. We're interested. And we did the same thing with our chartering team. We have a very robust chartering group within Industrial Projects, and we brought a lot of them from the carrier side, and also invaluable for the experience that they have and the insights into the market and the contacts.
I saw another video where you said there's no manual for project forwarding. If you had to write one, what would you put in the what not to do section?
Yeah. So I think that in this business, the most important thing that you have is your reputation. So what not to do is to jeopardize your reputation, right? Don't be dishonest. Don't commit or promise something that you can't do or that you never were going to do. That will stay with you. People will remember that. And the industry is very circular. In 1 minute, they're working for you. The next minute, they're your customer.
Or your boss.
And so, don't do anything to jeopardize a reputation.
And tell us about the DHL Innovation Center up in Chicago. What's come out of that, and what tools or products have you developed that are delivering benefits for Project Cargo specifically?
So, and that's not our only innovation center. That's the one here in the Americas region. We have others, one in Europe, one in APAC, one in Dubai. And the innovation centers are, first and foremost, they're spaces where you can brainstorm, right? Where you can bring customers in. There's exhibits, not like a museum, but there's examples of collaborations and technologies that we are working on or have worked on. And the point of that is inspiration. And then, of course, collaborating with customers to develop a particular solution that they need. They have a challenge with a project or with a supply chain process. That's the purpose of the Innovation Center.
For client specific, sometimes
to bring we want to bring customers there. We want to have a 1 day or a 2 day or whatever it takes, strategy, brainstorming, come to a solution. That's the main purpose of the Innovation Center, is to have a platform where we can develop that. And then you've got the exhibits that, of course, show some of those examples to inspire. And so, to answer your question, we've developed tools for tracking material using existing technologies and our systems that we have, so that we can provide solutions to our customers. We've developed, using cameras and drones, methods to measure material. And as they come in through warehouses or as they go through laydown yards, using that technology to help us provide quicker and faster processes for our customers. We've used digital twinning to create kind of mock supply chain processes, or to do an overview of a project. We've done that, including with Aramco and other big projects where we can help show using those models what pain points could be in a project and how to alleviate those types of challenges that come up. So that and many other things that we've done, but it's the Innovation Center is there to help us engage and find solutions for our customers.
And you mentioned you've worked as a shipper, a carrier, and a forwarder.
Yeah.
Which would you say is most difficult and why?
It's all challenging. All of it is challenging. I had a boss early in my career that said everybody should work for a freight forwarder at least a little bit in their career, because you touch everything, right? And I agree. And that's what makes it so challenging, is that it's not just your ship or your truck or your barge. It's not just, whatever it is that you're building, you're touching everything and bringing it from end to end, and you're interacting, with the customer and the supplier and all modes of transportation along the way, and trying to, first of all, win the business, win that project, right? Competing with, 5, 6, whatever number of freight forwarders that are also trying to win that business. And then at the end of the day, try and, service your customer and make a little bit of money as well too, right? And so that's challenging. And so it's, it's entrepreneurial. You're trying to win the business, but then you're also executing it. I find the freight forwarding side to be the most challenging. But I'm biased because I'm on that side right now.
What's been your career highlight to date?
For me, a highlight is anytime we win a big project. It feels good because you put so much time and effort into it. You engage the customer early. You do your homework. You work together with your team to put together a strong bid. And so when you hear news that you win a project, that's a highlight. And then even more when you finish the project and you think back of all the people that you worked with and all the cargo that you moved and all the challenges and the late nights and, the problems and the good things, you look back and you say, that's why we're here. It's almost like when you play golf and you struggle and then you have one good shot and that's why I play golf. Right?
I never have the good shots. And the low light?
Low light. I've had a couple of times in my career where the company that I worked for was either bought out or went out of business. And so that was a challenge. You kind of have like, what do I do? And, it's anxiety and nervousness, but I've always, in those moments, it's always been an opportunity to look and see, is this time to make a change? And in one instance, I was working for a carrier with Beluga. I think a lot of people have, know about them and they had their challenges. And I that's when I made the jump from the carrier side to work on the EPC side. And then years later at CB&I, when they were purchased by McDermott, and there was that transition that occurred, it was a good time to self-reflect and say, okay, what's the next step in my career? But it was also, I mean, low light is maybe a harsh way of putting it, but it was definitely a point of reflection. It was a point of anxiety of what's going to happen, uncertainty. And so, but I also think that that's a normal part of a career.
And outside work, what do you like to do?
Outside work, family, faith, activities, we're very, active when it comes to sports and outdoorsy type things. I was just, mentioning to you that we're going to be going on a hike here of Mount Whitney, something my wife and I enjoy doing. We have 3 kids, and so we enjoy, all of our kids are engaged in sports and things like that, and we push that on them, but also they enjoy doing it, and have gotten to the point as they've gotten older that we don't push them, they just do it, and so.
Can you keep up with them?
Well, as they get older, it's harder to keep up with them, and now it's just fun to watch them do their thing.
And we're recording this shortly before Breakbulk Americas. What do you think is going to be driving the conversation this year? What do you think people are going to be talking about at this year's anniversary event?
I think, tariffs for sure, and trade is going to be a topic. People are interested in learning what they can about that. I think, as always, it's the market, what's coming up, future projects, that's always of interest. And then just in general, how's everything going is always an aspect of every Breakbulk conference. And that's the networking, and you're connecting with your colleagues and getting that little bit of insight into how's this going, how's that going. And that's always insightful.
And you've participated in a lot of Breakbulk events, Breakbulk America specifically. Tell us what you get out of it and why it's been so important for you over the years.
It's a great time to connect with the industry. A lot of times we also connect internally. We bring people to Houston, and we have internal meetings and planning and even self-reflection. How are we doing and what do we do next? But then obviously it's the connection with customers and with the market. We, as DHL, we have a stand, a booth at the conference, and we try to stay close to that main stage. And as you know, we sponsor the main stage. So the things that are being presented there, we're interested in. That's the education and the information that we can get from the conference. And then, of course, we're wanting to engage our customers as much as possible and see how the year will close and what we'll bring, in the next year.
So if you could hold a dinner party at Breakbulk Americas and invite 3 people, past or present, from the industry, who would you invite?
That is an amazing question.
And I'm hoping you're going to give some names, because people don't like naming anybody. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I would probably say Finn Rasmussen. I would consider him to be a mentor. He worked at CB&I when I came in and really helped me, and so he's now retired, still lives in Houston, and I see him from time to time, but I would, he's deserving of that, I think. And I would really enjoy that. Another one would be Ed Davidson, who's a person when I worked on the carrier side who taught me a lot about chartering. And I learned, 5 or 6 years worth of experience in several months working with him. But I worked with him for several years, but just, he's a man. He's also not working in the industry anymore. And, there's a lot of other people that could be on this list, but I'll say John Amos. And I'll say him because he's been around forever. And he's been a huge champion of Breakbulk, still is, was probably the one who had the idea to get it all started. I'm not sure about that, but he was here from the beginning and still is a part of it. And
He's a gentleman.
I respect him, and I've worked with him closely with other industry organizations, with ECMC, and I have a lot of respect for him.
And a couple of quick fire questions, because I
Sure.
know that you're good at these. Somebody's just arrived in Houston for Breakbulk Americas. What's your top tip for somewhere to eat or drink?
Okay. To eat or drink? Good question. You've got to have barbecue, I would say. And so there's a lot of great places in Houston that you can have barbecue. There's the Brisket House in the Galleria. There is Killian's Barbecue, which is in South, outside of Houston a little bit. There's
downtown. I might check it out myself.
There's Corkscrew that's close to here.
Okay.
And we're filming in the Woodlands, so I would highly recommend that. Yeah.
And you've got one call to fix a shipment disaster, but you can't call somebody from DHL. Who are you going to call?
To fix a shipment disaster.
Yeah. You need some help. Who can you call that will help you out?
Oh my goodness. That's a tough question. Not within DHL.
Not within DHL.
Yeah. I'm going to go call Finn Rasmussen and see what he says.
He's probably seen it, right?
Because he's seen it and he knows it. Yeah. But there's so many other good partners that you can call too. I think it depends on the circumstances. But yeah.
And finish the sentence. If I wasn't in logistics, I'd be
doing something in sports just because I enjoy it. I wouldn't be making any money. I wouldn't be playing any professional sports because I'm not that athletic, but I'd be doing something with that, because I enjoy it.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, Jake.
Appreciate it. It was a pleasure, and look forward to the conference here in a couple of months.
See you there.
Hi, it's Leslie Meredith with the Breakbulk team, and welcome to Voices of Breakbulk Americas, produced by the Project Cargo Professionals podcast to help us celebrate the 35th anniversary of Breakbulk Americas. Enjoy the show and register now so that you can join us in Houston this fall, September 30th through October 2nd for Breakbulk Americas.